This video is part of a series for the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game and is meant for keepers. Players, please turn back now. This video uses trademarks and/or copyrights owned by Chaosium Inc., Moon Design Publications LLC, which are used under Chaosium Inc.'s fan material policy. We are expressly prohibited from charging you to use or access this content. This video is not published, endorsed, or specifically approved by Chaosium Inc. For more information about Chaosium Inc.'s products, please visit www.chaosium.com.
Jackson Elias is an African-American man of average height and build. With short hair and a habitual grin, he tends to wear a tweed suit except when impractical, and he usually sports a fedora hat. He smokes a pipe and often gestures with it to emphasize points when he is talking. Jackson was born on May 18, 1884, in Stratford, Connecticut. Nothing is known about Jackson's parents, as he was abandoned at birth and left in front of Hartford Orphan Asylum. When Jackson was 12 years old, he ran away from the orphanage, and he grew up fast living on the streets. Jackson has no living relatives and has continued a nomadic lifestyle and keeps no permanent address. Despite Jackson's rough start, he has been able to learn several languages and has become highly educated, albeit mostly self-taught. He found his true talent laid with pen and paper. Thus he became an author specializing in books about strange and violent cults. While Elias was mesmerized by the cults he had encountered and was fascinated with their ghoulish beliefs, he considered their members to be deluded and their evils to be purely of human origin. Faced with the incontrovertible proof of the mythos, he will certainly crumble. Even if it brings on a bout of madness, the long-term effects is to make Elias all the more determined to get down to the bottom of the mystery. Jackson possesses a dark sense of humor and is often ready to make sardonic wisecracks. Behind this veneer, he has a noble and warm nature, prompting him to take risks in protecting people he cares about or those that are unable to fend for themselves. Elias isn't afraid of doing what he sees as right, and is not afraid of getting in a brawl. Jackson has written and published 7 novels by 1921. The first book was published in 1910 and was entitled Skulls Along the River, and was a look into the headhunter cults of the Amazon basin. In 1912, Masters of the Black Arts was published, a novel that was a survey of supposed sorceress cults throughout history. Jackson's third publication was released in 1913 and was entitled The Way of Terror. It was an analysis of the systemization of fear through cult organization, was warmly reviewed by George Sorel. 2 years later, in 1915, The Smoking Heart, which first half discussed Mayan death cults, and the second concerns present-day Central American death cults. Sons of Death, by far Jackson's most successful novel, was published in 1918, and was an exposé on modern-day Thuggees. Elias infiltrated the cult and wrote about them. In early 1920s came The Witch Cults of England. This book summarizes covens in 9 English countries and has interviews with practicing English witches. The reception of this novel was not as well received as his prior works, with Rebecca West, a well-known literature critic, stating that the material was trivial and often overworked. The Black Power was Jackson's second-to-last book and expanded upon The Way of Terror, and included some material on Asian and African death cults. Included interviews with several anonymous cult leaders as well. Jackson's final work came in mid-1923 and was entitled The Hungry Dead. This was an exposé on the modern-day survival of a Peruvian and Bolivian death cult from the time of the conquistadors. All of the books that Jackson had authored were published by Prospero House of New York City and were edited by the owner, Jonah Kensington. Jackson Elias sadly met his end at the hand of cultists in the Chelsea Hotel in New York City. He was on the cusp of meeting his good friends to discuss a matter of grave importance. This matter was so important to him that he had anticipated he might come to a nasty end. He had made arrangements with his lawyer and executor of estate, Carlton Ramsay, to leave the entirety of his worldly fortune and possessions to his friends to fund the investigation that he had lost his life trying to solve.